Good morning. My name is Catherine Chiesa, and today we're going to talk about the power of pure, unconditional love. And before we even do that, let's breathe a little and think about the power that we are. That's our energy. Our energy is powerful. People don't stop to think of their energy, but if you want to think about energy in a light way, go down to the playground and see the little children on the swings and such, and you are viewing powerful energy. And they are full of love. They don't know that. They just are, until they're conditioned or programmed to think differently. And what I'm about today is to try and give the gift of us all thinking again about our unconditional love, which obviously has to be for ourselves first. We have to love ourselves so deeply, warts and all, whatever, and forgive ourselves our mistakes, our misjudgments, which we do, and be able to start again anew in another moment. Each one of us is like a snowflake. We're a unique and original human being that has never been here before and has the power, with the energy that we are, to do anything and rise above anything and invent anything new that we want to do. We can do all things. There's nothing humans can't do. And we've evolved to such a point of such beauty. We are so much better off than we were years ago. Our consciousness level has come to a much more beautiful place than it used to be. It doesn't mean that we can't improve, that we can't focus on unconditional love for ourselves and the other more. We need to do that more. If we could drop into our unconditional love for ourselves and the other, it's like everything works. Everything flows. And the energy rises, the vibration rises to a place of everybody sharing and cooperation and harmony. With that, we can do all things. And in the beginning of time, when there were only a few human beings on this earth, when people would meet each other, they would bow at the other human being with great respect of another human being on this earth. And there's so many of us now, billions. We tend to take each other all for granted and not respect the blood running through our veins, and that we could be dead in a second and we'd be no more, and that we would lose each other. What a dreadful thing when we lose the ones we love. The pain we go through, the agony, the grief. And we don't really think about it until we lose the person. And if we could appreciate and be grateful for what is every day. Unconditional love is really about being so grateful and appreciative that you're not in pain. That your body's not in pain. Isn't that wonderful? That you're not being shot at, like over in Syria and other places. That you're not being sold as a slave. That you're not being beaten in some place. The fact that we take all of this for granted and don't stop to be in the moment and to let the moment expand and to rise up and be beautiful. And be still enough to start again and decide, You know what I'd really like to have is peace with somebody. And whoever that is in your life, I would recommend that you really be still and go to that place and create it like you'd really like it to be. And then bring that into being. If there's anything in your life that's off kilter, that's not peace and harmony, it distracts from the power. And your power is your energy. And when the phone rings and somebody tells me some dreadful news about a friend of mine who's ill and dying of cancer, guess what? I lose my power. My energy, for the moment, just left. Then it's my job to get that power back and to stop, be still, and pray for that soul, that spirit. And my spirit and my soul can go right to that human directly and be there with them and love them. We don't recognize we're more than the body. And when we reflect on the soul and enjoy the humor of it all and the lightheartedness of the soul, children know these things and they react accordingly. Things don't work out at the playground, they just dust themselves off and get right up and get going all over again like nothing even happened. And as we become adults, we hear a little bad news or a little difficulty or whatever, and wow, our power's gone, our energy's gone. Where'd it go? Well, your thoughts. Let's go into that for a moment here. Your thoughts are not who you are. Your thoughts are just not who you are. They're just things that travel through the brain, and you are in charge of them. And you can say, no, not going there today. I'm not going to be miserable today. That's really bad news, but I'm not going to be affected by that bad news. I'm not going to allow that bad news to come into my body and soul and ruin my day. Tomorrow morning I'll sit and be still and pray about that and send some light and energy to that problem and situation, and that's it. But I'm in complete control of the joy or the lack of it. Okay, let's go into fear and love. Those are the two defining forces. Love, which this whole video is about, the power, which is your energy of pure, unconditional love, is about either you're in fear or you're in the state of love. Which one do you want to be in? And yes, we are drawn into fear. Fear is okay to have. If you're walking down the street and you're thinking about what you have to buy at the store and you don't see the car coming, you better have fear when you see it and get out of the way. Fear does provide us with safety, but fear is destructive when we let it get us through crazy thoughts that go through our brain. We hear a little bad news, and man, we take that bad news to the end of the earth. We make it worse. But I have learned that I have a choice. I can either be in that crippling, paralyzing fear, or I can be like the little kid at the playground that just fell off the swing and gets up, dusts himself off, and gets back on the swing and is having a really nice life. So I'm asking you to begin to monitor the thoughts in your head every day. Be authentic. If you don't feel right about something, for heaven's sakes, change it. Speak up and say that doesn't feel good. What you just said to me doesn't feel good. And it's not attack, it's just truth. Don't you love truth? There's a beautiful word. Truth is absolutely gorgeous. Children always tell their truth. With my children, I over-taught, overdid everything because you just think you should. With grandchildren, you just let them be. And if you started to tell them what to do, chances are, like William would say, don't need it, don't need it, whatever. And that was great. I didn't need to tell him anything. I learned everything from those 5 grandchildren. They taught me everything because this time I listened to these beautiful little souls. I remember one day Jessica came in the front door and she was about 3 or so, real tiny, and she was a little pudgy and so cute, and she was trying to tie her shoes. It was before the Velcro things or something. And she was really out there struggling, so, I couldn't help my Irish-Italian background, so I went out there to help her, and she said, "No, Mima, don't need you to help me. I'll get it." I went back into the kitchen. Many minutes later, she said, "I got it. I did it." And she came bouncing into the kitchen, so happy that she did it instead of me helping her. And that's the video today. I am not really helping you, redirecting you. I am telling you my story from where I am at 79 years old. Next year I'm 80, and I felt like I needed to get this DVD out again for my 5 grandchildren and whoever else wants to listen to it. My childhood wasn't the best. I'm not going to go into that too much, just a wee little bit so you know. Usually if you know a child has been beaten, a child has been left, all of those things, you really are able to read that energy. You can see that in most beings if they have not released their spirit and their soul from that place. When my dad was from Europe, and he was a 6th grade graduate, he met my mother. He was Italian. My mother was in the convent, and she was about ready to take her vows as a nun. And it was this Grandma Kennedy on Long Island that gathered people on Sundays. In those days, it was the Great Depression. It was so bad. Nobody had money. The Great Depression was really, really quite a time in America. And it wasn't easy for my dad, being an uneducated person, and my mom, who apparently was an orphan, is what I heard. In any event, my mom and dad got married. Great Depression, no money, difficulties, whatever. And they had 2 boys, my older brothers. Frank, 6 years older, and my other brother, 3 years older. And we proceeded our lives. Well, my father had a job delivering coal on a coal truck, and his partner pulled the steel chute one day, and my dad was still opening the window of the basement where the coal was going to go in to shovel into the furnace, and the steel chute came down and broke his neck and back. Well, that was the 40s. There was not even penicillin. There was nothing. So he was in the hospital for an extremely long time. I don't even know whether it was a year or more. I don't know that. In any event, my mother went into the bottle. She became an alcoholic. She was terrified because it turned out that the people in those days realized we had no money because my father had no job. And in those days, there was no food shelters. There was no public anything. There was no help. You were on your own to get food. so-called bums around the country would go on trains, and they would hitch a ride, and they'd stop at a farm, and the farmers would give them some food. Well, the authorities came by and knew that my brothers and I were not eating, so they took us to this little shelter, and that's where I was. Well, the story goes that the shelter was a small place in Mineola, as I recall, not too big. Anyway, I was dropped off there and my brothers, and there was a girl's side and a boy's side. And I was 3.5 years old, and I remember screaming and yelling and not wanting to go in there, nor did I understand why I was being left there. In any event, there were air raids because the German submarines actually came on Long Island and those places, and they had sirens going and lights and whatever, and we would be awakened in the middle of the night, and I'd have to get off my cot, and we'd go down the stairs and out into the playground that was fenced in, and it would be cold, and everybody would be scared because it meant that we could be bombed and whatever. We didn't know. So fear was really evident to me. I don't know that I knew fear before then, but I certainly knew fear then in this shelter. Anyway, as the story goes, and all of a sudden a lady came and she said, "Catherine, get your things, we're going someplace." And in those days, people got paid to take children in who were orphaned or didn't have money. So I went to this house, and the lady left me there, and I didn't know these people. I had no idea who they were. They were strangers, and here I am, 3.5, 4 years old, and I have no idea where my mother and father are, and so I'm in fear and wondering where they went, and where's my brothers? And so my life began in a very stressful way. Well, at some point, I guess I decided, I guess I'm in charge of me. And so I began to enjoy nature. And I would look at trees and flowers and the blue sky and the white clouds and the water and the ocean and ponds and animals and dogs and cats and beauty. I began to try and be outside myself rather than apparently being in my fearful thoughts. So I would entertain myself with beauty. And I remember I saw this clay pond one day, and they were beautiful orange fish, these beautiful, gorgeous fish, and I had never seen colors like that. And I stayed all afternoon looking in this clay pond at these beautiful orange, red, yellow fish swimming in this pond with lilies. And so I began to learn how to feed myself beauty. Now, these people weren't bad. They had some children of their own. They were older. Nobody abused me. I would eat. They would make you eat things you didn't want in those days, and that didn't feel good, but you did what you had to do. That's what everyone does when they're little. Anyway, long story short, guess what? The lady comes back in the black suit and the briefcase, and she said, "Guess what, Catherine? You have to get your things. We're going someplace else." So she takes me to yet another town, even further away from my mother and father. Even worse. Now I feel like I'm going out into the black night, and I'm never going to find my mother and father or my brothers. And fear enters in, and I think, well, I wonder what I did wrong. Right away, we always think, what did I do wrong? And I began to think I must have done something wrong. And it was 3 homes later, or houses later, of different people that I didn't know, alone, without my parents. The last house has meaning here. I mean, big meaning. Listen to this. These people love the Lord. And the next thing you know, we received Holy Communion. I got to have a beautiful wreath around my head and a white dress and a bouquet, and got to have my first Holy Communion married to Jesus. Well, my cup runneth over. I'm going like, my life has begun. That was the beginning of my life. Till then, there were just thoughts going through my mind. As I spoke of earlier, your thoughts are not who you are. Your feelings are. My feelings became one of love, and I knew I had feelings instead of these crazy thoughts that I made a mistake or something. So now, not only does my cup runneth over, wow, now I'm 8.5 years old. I've been gone from my family, out in the starry world, never to see them again. And I would pray to Jesus continually, could you please take me back to my mother and father and brothers, please, please. And I would pray so earnestly. Well, as life would have it, this lovely couple who had older children that were nice people, I enjoyed being at their home the most because they were loving. They said, guess what today is? I said, what? They said, your father and your mother and brothers are coming to get you today after church. Hello. Oh my God. I couldn't begin to express when I saw my father's broken down jalopy outside. There was a broken down old jalopy that was noisy, and I looked, and there he was. And there was my mother, and there was my 2 brothers in the back seat. It was a sunny day. It was gorgeous. And I said, thank you. Thank you, Jesus and God. Thank you. Thank you for answering my prayers. Oh my God. My life began at 8.5 years old. Got in the car. None of us spoke. What could you say? What could you say if you were separated from your family for 5 and some years as a little child and you got to see them again? The gift was beyond speaking about. I could never have another gift that was ever bigger than that gift. Ever. Ever. So I thought. Anyway, the gifts keep coming in our lives. They just keep coming if we want to see them. Got in the car and drove across the island to where my dad had rented a tiny little cottage. And I mean, it was tiny. It had 2 little bedrooms. There were 5 of us. It was on the bay, at Manhasset Bay on Long Island in Port Washington. Drove up in front of this little cottage, and I looked at the house, and again, my cup runneth over. And I asked to be excused from the family, and I walked across the street to the beach, to the bay. It was a sunny day, and I recall it like it was a moment ago. I knelt on the sand, in the hot sand, and my knees felt so good in God's hot sand as I knelt in front of the bay water. And I said, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for answering my prayers. Thank you for giving me the gift of my father and my mother and my two brothers back. I will honor your work that you've taught us about loving ourselves and each other unconditionally, no matter what, about forgiveness, about knowing how powerful we are, about knowing that if you believe, you can do anything. He said, if you believe. We need to be in our feelings. When you're in your feelings, you are safe. When you're in your left brain thinking crazy thoughts, making yourself miserable, and none of that's going to happen anyway, what are we doing? We need to be still and focus and know that we're not alone. So believe that you can ask your spirit, your higher self, your soul, these guardian angels. You can say, hey, I need some help here. I'm all turned around. Could you please give me peace and stillness so I can figure out this next difficult chapter I'm going to have to walk through. It may be a death. So death is death, and things are over, and then there's no feeling. Well, this did unfortunately come to me. Not only was it death, but it was our oldest son, Michael, who was 30. We're on holiday in Mexico, down in Cancun, and we were playing tennis, and then we decided to swim and clean off and eat on the terrace there. So we just stepped into the water a bit, and because of the fierce undertow and overcurrent that is caused due to the buildings that are built on this island, it's aerodynamics. I saw it the next day. So there's overcurrent, undercurrent, and Michael was out a ways. He was a good swimmer. I was too. And David was in a little bit. And then all of a sudden, Michael knew he couldn't get in. And I used to be a lifeguard on Jones Beach, and I knew I couldn't get in either. We were in swells of waves. And at one point I said, Michael, are you okay? And he said, yeah, but it wasn't very convincing because I was scared myself that I couldn't get 4 feet into shore, that no matter how I tried, I couldn't get there, and it was impossible. So we kept waiting for the waves to come and bring us in, but they didn't. He seemed to be being pulled out more, and me too, and he was in the next big swell, and long story short, he drowned. And his brother tried to save him, David. I did get in because people formed a chain gang because everyone was afraid to go in the water. And then they got a hold of me and they pulled me in. But Michael went under with another big wave, and David went underneath with him and said goodbye basically to him, knowing that the drowning was taking place. Quite a powerful time. Long story short, death changes you, particularly if it's your child, never mind a husband or wife or friend or daughter or something. It's so defining. You feel like you've died yourself. As a mother, I felt like I died in that moment. We rushed him to the hospital when they finally came and whatever, but he was basically dead. And we took his body back to Chicago and St. Mary's Church in Lake Forest, and I did the eulogy about him. explaining how he wanted to know about everything in the world in his 30 years. He traveled all over, learned all the languages, wrote a novel. He was in corporate. He did a little bit of everything. He was a debate champion of the country. He worked in Washington, went to the White House, was honored as being an outstanding human young man. To lose him was more than shattering. So now we're talking about feelings and unconditional love. Wow, talk about losing power. I lost all of my power, but I brought it back to speak about him at the eulogy. That was very important, that the church was full. The governor was there, Senator Geo Karras was there, everybody in Lake Forest was there, everybody he ever knew, everybody we ever knew, corporate, all my design clients were there, my secretaries, my assistants, everybody was there. And guess what? The very thing that happened when Michael was birthed, which was in 1957, he died in 87, exactly 30 years later. When he was born in California, I said to my husband, if you don't get into the hospital soon, I'm giving birth. And I was. He had put his foot through the water bag. And so what happened was, they had no chance to do anything for me in 57. And I literally went out into this iridescent tunnel, if you will, this gorgeous place of safety, and I felt like I was with Jesus again, and I knew if I just got around the next tunnel, this next gorgeous, iridescent, lighted, you couldn't even explain the light. It was love, unconditional love, that I was bathed in when Mike was born. And I knew if I just got around the next part of the tunnel, that there would be Jesus again. But they said, we're sorry, you have to go back. You had a little boy. You must go back. And I was very depressed, very sad. I never told my husband about that. There was nothing ever written about that. But years later, there were many books about going into the white light and the white tunnel, which is out into the spirit world, which is very real. Long story short, at the church when I was giving the eulogy and Mike's body was right there in the coffin beneath me, and my husband was over on the left side of the church with Karen, Michael's sister, and on the right side was David with his buddy who had asked when he got back from Mexico if he would hold him and rock him. These were both sports jockeys. And he had asked his friend if he would please hold him and rock him. David was so destroyed. So David was over here with his friend. Bill and Karen were over there, and all these people. It was the day, it was New Year's Eve. Michael died the day after Christmas. He was buried New Year's Eve. And guess what? The white church was iridescent white completely. I could see nobody else but Bill, my husband, Michael's father, and his sister, and his brother over here. They were like cameos. Everything else was gone. Everything else was this iridescent, exquisitely, beautifully sparking. You can't explain the energy of this light. As I gave the eulogy of Michael's life, of his 30 years. And after it was over, many people came to the studio and asked if they could have a copy, like we videoed it, or like I had a speech. No, it came like today from my heart and soul. And that was it. Anyway, what I'm telling you is our feelings are all we have. And even in the worst of times, when you've lost your child, You have to come back into your body. Your spirit and soul has to come back into your body. You don't even know that it's gone. You don't even know that it's left you when such hurt happens to you, such pain and anguish and loss. You're just gone out of your body. Your spirit isn't in your body. You're just a body. You're just flesh and bones. You're no longer the spirit and the soul. You're gone. So I went right back to the studio, started work again, but my journey was really long and painful. I will not lie to you. Even though I knew Jesus and God and about all of these things and about the power of our energy and pure unconditional love, and I knew Jesus and I prayed to Jesus, but to be honest, I was really angry. I went to anger. I went to anger at God, and I was even like, hey, Jesus, what were you thinking? What were you thinking when you let Michael go out on this wave, when he was going to do your work? That's what he was about. I don't understand. So I was angry for a long time. And I want to tell you here today, as we do this video on the power of pure unconditional love, when you go to anger, you're lost, you're gone, you're over with. You're walking around as dead as this table. There's anything there. You're not even home. You're not in your body, you're not in your spirit, your soul, you're not in unconditional love. When you're in anger and fear, you have lost yourself. And I was there a long time. And then somebody said to me, do you have any help? And I said, what do you mean help? And they said, well, you should go to a psychiatrist or someone and, get some help. So I did go to Dr. Walcott down at the University of Illinois, and he was powerful. And he helped me with my feelings, and helped me with my anger, and helped me place things in the proper places. And he put me back together in 5 years. So a lot of hard work. And then little by little, I started to get me back. And I was watching a movie one day, and it was funny. And I started to laugh, and my belly started to shake in this movie. And I said to my daughter, oh my God, I feel my stomach, I feel me. And it was a funny movie. And I thought, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back.
Can we pause right there?
It took me a long time to come back from Michael's death, mostly because I was stuck in that place and couldn't get out of there. And now that I know these concepts, I'm very happy to share them, that you can get out of the space where you're in, no matter how bad it is. It doesn't take much to come back. I think the universe is very forgiving and loving, and we all have another moment of now to choose again, and to not be afraid or be in fear. Fear shuts you down. We can't do anything when we're in fear. When we're in pure, powerful, unconditional love, we really do have incredible happenings occur for us. I mean, it's amazing to me how we don't realize that we're really, in a way, our own gods, and we're our own frustrations when we are that, or we are free to be. And when we're free to be and able to allow ourselves to make mistakes, we're going to make mistakes. And each of us is different. We've all got different energies and personalities, but when we come together like today, doing this video together and working together in trusting and the power of knowing that there's more than us. There's spirit guides that help us. We can call upon them. Our angels are always there for us. Most people don't cry out until it's so bad. I remember crying out on the beach and going, "Oh my God, please don't let Michael drown." And of course he did. But we have a choice every moment of our lives to make it quality and really powerfully creative. We're creative souls and we can create as much as we want. We can start over. We can do everything anew. Nothing has to stay the same. When we're out in nature, we're more apt to be able to tap into the energy force of the universe, which is vibrating all around. We're vibrating. The earth is vibrating. The trees are vibrating. Everything is vibrating. And when we begin to understand our energy power, we are power sources and forces just like that powerful water. We just don't think of it that way. And so to trust in the universe, trust in your guardian angels, and know that you can start again. And always remember, what you think is what you get. So if I'm in a down mood and things are difficult and replaying some difficult news and worrying about it and making it worse than it is, I've ruined my day, my afternoon or whatever. And so we have to keep coming back to our power, which is our energy, and recognize that our thoughts are not really anything but silly things like a train going through. So when we really begin to accept our power, I think a lot of religiosity, a lot of things that we were taught when we were younger, we have been programmed due to our religiosity, our tribe, which is our family. When they say, "Oh, watch out for that, watch out for this, be careful of that," all of those things. We've been taught to be afraid. We've been taught to watch out. We've been taught to say, "Oh, I better not do that. That won't work for me. Maybe someone else it'll work for." No, I can't do that. And so much of it has been programmed into us, and we can program it out again if we know we have that kind of power to do that. And the universal laws are so beautiful. The law of attraction, you attract beauty, or you can attract ugliness and evilness. But when you tell truth, and truth is all around you, there's a vibration that vibrates at a very high level. Pure, powerful, unconditional love vibrates at the highest level. The lowest level is fear, anger, grief, sadness. And I didn't realize by me being angry at God for so long that I was ruining my own life. It never even occurred to me that that was what was going on until I got out of there. And now I'm just very pleased to know that no matter what befalls me, I don't have to stay in that energy. I can walk right out of there and have myself a perfectly beautiful day like this. I do not have to stay there. We have the choice always. The choice to be free. To be free is the most important thing. Most people think, well, I'd like to get free, but I have to go somewhere. I have to get a lot of miles between well, guess who's there at the other end? Me. And I'm still thinking not such brilliant things, so I didn't get anywhere until I change my way of thinking, the ability to not be afraid and realize that we all have different ways of doing things. We all have a different energy, and that's perfect. One does this, one does that, and it all comes together for the good of all. To know that you are that powerful and safe. To know is from your soul. The personality is a very small aspect of who you are. Your soul is the bigger aspect of who you are. And when you're still and quiet and you pray, you go into your soul. And that soul knows exactly what you're supposed to do next. That soul will direct you, and your soul will help you out of wherever you're at. Just stay in the moment. You see, when you go in the past, you're really messing yourself up. The past is over with. What are we doing in the past? Other than just having fun with it and telling a cute story or something meaningful, then you do. Otherwise, you stay out of the past. There's no point to be there. And the future never, ever turns out as we plan it. So to go to the future and worry about how that's all going to turn out, like today, we've just gone along with whatever, and we just keep trying to make it okay. So what I'm asking today is for you to stay in your own power, your own energy field, and your knowingness of directing your own life and not having to ask anyone else about it. You must be yourself totally, whatever that is. And if you're a little cranky, you might want to say, let's see, what am I cranky about today? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? All of those things. And then you be kind to yourself. By being kind to yourself, then you will be kind back to me. And this kindness is transferred. To appreciate all of you to listen to this, to take the time to feel what I'm saying. Everything is about feeling, and if we feel, we're safe. And no matter what we feel, it's okay. There's no right or wrong. It's always your feeling, and you're able to feel that, even if it's anger, and then look at the anger and say, do I really need that? Who am I angry at? Why? And go on. But I thank you so much for watching this DVD of one person's life that's learned a lot in 79 years about living, being through it all, starting out so difficult, but yet making a beautiful life out of it. So I wish you all God's blessings, and know that you are blessed, you are powerful, you are the light, the love and the light of the world. And go and shine it out there. And know that as you are in the grocery store or at the gas station, instead of standing there just doing your gas, look at the other person and smile. Give them a smile. It didn't cost anything. Just smile. Maybe they're having a perfectly rotten day and everything's going wrong, and you give them a smile, they smile back, and you're in better stead. You're like, oh, they smiled back. Wasn't that nice? When we connect, there is pure, powerful, unconditional love when we really connect. Let us connect in the joy of it all, and I thank you so much for today. My blessings. Amen.